A very good morning to all my dear students. Welcome back to online IIT class. Today we are going to discuss about our synopsis 6 change of state and terms associated with change of state. Generally, matter can exist in three physical states. What is the matter? Matter is everything around you. Atoms and compounds all are made up of very small parts of matter. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space is called matter. So here the three different states are solid, liquid and vapor states. The physical state of substance can be changed by heating or cooling. These changes of substance, one physical state to another, is called change of states. Take one example, water. Water can exist in three different physical states. One is solid, ice means. One is liquid, means water. And gaseous states, means water vapor. We already know the physical state of substance can be changed by heating or cooling effects. So here in the change of states, first one is fusion or melting. This process during a solid changes to liquid state. Example, conversion of ice into water is called fusion. By heating effect, the ice is melting into water. So the solid substance gets converted into liquid is called melting point or fusion. The melting point of ice is 0 degrees centigrade. Next one, freezing. The process during a liquid changes to solid is called solidification or freezing. Example, conversion of water into ice is the solidification. This fixed temperature at which a liquid substance get converted into a solid is called its freezing point. Next one, vaporization or boiling. In this process, a liquid on heating changes to vapor state. So this fixed point is called boiling point. Example, conversion of water into steam is a vaporization. So the boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade and the melting point of ice is 0 degrees centigrade. Next state is condensation. This process during which vapors on cooling changes into liquid state at a fixed temperature is called condensation. Example, conversion of steam into water. The fixed temperature water vapor of substance get converted into liquid state is called condensation. So this fixed temperature is called condensation point. So here solid to liquid conversion is called melting and liquid to gas is called vaporization and gas to liquid is called condensation. Liquid to solid is called solidification. These are the change of state. Next one, evaporation. The conversion of a solid into vapor at fixed temperature below the boiling point is called evaporation. Evaporation is the process which a liquid changes from its liquid state to gaseous state without being heated. It's called its boiling point. Next one, sublimation. The substances changes directly from solid to gas on heating and gas to solid on cooling. This process is called sublimation. So here iodine, camphor, ammonium chloride are some of the examples of sublimates.
On Earth, everything is made up of matter. It's everything around us. Heavy rocks are made of matter, and even things we can't see, like air, are made of matter. Even your friends are made of matter. If it takes up space, then it's matter. Matter is made up of atoms and molecules, which are too tiny to see unless you have a very strong microscope. They're like tiny little building blocks that make up everything around us. To give you an idea, there are almost 10 octillion water molecules in a single drop of rain. That's a lot of zeros. Matter can be any size. It can be the size of a rocket, as huge as a mountain, or as tiny as a grain of sand. Different objects have different amounts of molecules and atoms. The kinds of atoms and molecules in matter make some things shiny, make some things heavy and hard, and make some things light and soft. There are three main states or kinds of matter: solid, liquid, or gas. A solid is something that holds its shape. Solids can be hard like a toaster, a pencil, or a cricket bat, or they can be soft like a rubber toy or a piece of clay. A solid means that the atoms are packed in really close together so they can't move, which means the object holds its shape. A liquid, on the other hand, will always change its shape. It changes shape to fit the shape of the container it's put in. A liquid can flow, which means it can be poured. So if you pour water into a fishbowl, it moves to become the shape of the fishbowl. Liquids are sometimes thick like honey or thin like water, but no matter what, they'll always flow. Atoms in a liquid can move around, but they'll stay together. A gas, like a liquid, takes the shape of the container it's in, but will also spread out to fill the container. When a balloon fills with water, the water fills up the bottom first. But when you fill it with a gas, the gas fills the whole balloon. Sometimes, matter can change states, usually by changing its temperature. If you heat ice cream, it will melt and turn to a liquid. If you make the ice cream cool again, it will then turn back to a solid. Water is unique because it's the only thing on Earth that naturally occurs in all three states: as a solid, as a liquid, and as a gas. And it can change states quite easily. Water in its most common form, as a liquid, covers about 70% of the planet. It also has no taste, smell, or color. Water constantly changes states in nature. In very cold places like the mountains, the water freezes into ice and snow. The sun then warms the frozen water, causing it to melt to liquid water. As the sun continues to heat it, the water begins to evaporate. In warmer places, the sun heats up the water faster, causing the water to evaporate more quickly. The warmer the environment, the quicker the water will evaporate. Heat from the sun warms the water. This turns the liquid water into a gas or water vapor, which rises into the air. This is known as evaporation. As the water vapor moves up higher and higher into the sky, it starts to cool down, turning back into tiny droplets of liquid water. This is known as condensation and is what causes clouds to form. As these droplets of water join together to become bigger drops, they become too heavy to stay in the air and fall back down to Earth as rain, hail, or snow. This is known as precipitation. Hail and snow are water as a solid, but they won't stay this way. Once on the ground, they'll eventually warm and melt and turn back into a liquid. This water is then evaporated up by the sun, and this goes on and on. In nature, the way water keeps changing states is called the water cycle. Rain is part of the water cycle, and from it, we collect water to drink and use in our homes.
Interconversion of states of matter. Matter around us exists in the solid, liquid, and gaseous state. The state of matter changes from solid to liquid, liquid to gas, or a combination of these. A solid changes its state to liquid by melting. Upon heating solids, the space between the particles increases and the particles move freely to form liquid. When a piece of butter is placed on a frying pan and heated, the piece of butter slowly loses its shape and changes to liquid. Similarly, a liquid changes its state to solid by solidification. Upon freezing liquids, the space between the particles decrease and they solidify. When some water is poured in an ice tray and kept in the freezer, the water solidifies and becomes ice. A liquid changes its state to gaseous form through vaporization. The space between particles increases when heated, thereby forming gas. When water is heated, vapor arises from its surface and so water in a liquid state is converted to a gaseous state. The gas formed can be converted back to liquid. Now, close the beaker with the lid and continue heating. After some time, you will observe droplets of water accumulated on the surface of the lid. Such a process is called condensation. During condensation, vaporized particles are accumulated and form liquid. We have already learned melting, solidification, vaporization, and condensation. Now, can a solid be directly converted to gas and vice versa? When dry ice is kept at -78.5 degrees Celsius at 1 atmospheric pressure, dry ice is converted to gas. This process is called sublimation. And when the gas so formed is trapped, the gas is accumulated to form dry ice again. That shows that a solid can be directly converted to gas and vice versa. As we have earlier seen in vaporization, a liquid is converted to gas before reaching its boiling point. Such a process is relatively known as evaporation. Let's define it. Evaporation is the process by which a liquid changes from its liquid state to gaseous state without being heated to its boiling point. There are many factors which affect the evaporation of liquids. Temperature. When droplets of water are sprayed into a hot pan, you will observe that the droplets suddenly vaporize and the vapors escape into the atmosphere. This shows that increase of temperature will result in a greater number of water particles being converted to a vapor state. Surface area. When the surface area is increased, the rate of evaporation increases. Here, the glass and the saucer contain water. Both are kept at room temperature. You will observe that after some time, the water level in the saucer has fallen substantially compared to the water level in the glass. The water in the saucer has evaporated due to the increased surface area. Wind speed. These clothes are spread out for drying. As the wind speed increases, the particles of water vapor move away with the wind, decreasing the amount of water vapor in the surrounding. Wind speed increases evaporation. Hence, on a windy day, clothes dry faster. Humidity. Humidity is the amount of water vapor present in air. If the amount of water in the air is high, evaporation will be less. Here, the same volume of water is kept in both beakers. However, they are placed in different weather conditions. Hence, you will observe that under hot conditions, the water level in the beaker drops, whereas in humid conditions, there is no significant change in the water level. This shows that humidity affects evaporation. Evaporation causes cooling. Let us now observe a thermometer where the mercury bulb is secured with a cotton plug. It is dipped in a bottle containing spirit. You will observe that the mercury dips. This indicates that as the spirit evaporates, the temperature reduces and cotton becomes cold. Things to remember. The state of matter changes from solid to liquid Liquid to gas or a combination of these. Solid changes its state to liquid by melting, and liquid changes its state to solid by solidification. Liquid changes its state to gaseous form through vaporization, and through condensation, gas changes to liquid. Solid can be directly converted to gas through a process of sublimation, and gas can be converted to solid through deposition. Evaporation is the conversion of liquid to gas before reaching the liquid's boiling point.
Today we'll be learning about changes in the states of matter. Now you know there are three states of matter. There are solids, there are liquids, and there are gases. And you probably know that when a solid like ice turns into a liquid, we say that it's melting. And if a liquid like water turns back into a solid, we can say that it's freezing. But it turns out they're names for all of the other types of changes that can exist as well. If a liquid turns into a gas, like when you boil a pot of water, we say that the liquid is evaporating. This is an example of evaporation. There are also times when a gas will turn back into a liquid. If you've ever had a bottle of cold water, you see these little droplets of water form on the outside. This is happening because water vapor, or gas in the air, is turning back into a liquid because of the cold water inside of the bottle. We call this process when a gas turns back into a liquid, condensation. There's one more example too. Believe it or not, but a solid can turn directly into a gas without ever having to be a liquid. This happens with dry ice, which is solid carbon dioxide. If you drop it in some water just to start the reaction, you can see that the carbon dioxide ice is turning directly into a gas. It's never becoming a liquid. Those solid chunks are switching directly into a gas. Now this process where a solid goes straight to a gas is called sublimation. Let's practice some of these together. If you ever wake up on a cold morning, you sometimes see that there's liquid water on the grass. This water comes from water gas or vapor in the air that's turning back into liquid water. What is it called when a gas turns back into a liquid? Well, we can see that that is called condensation. Here's another example. If you pour water on a dark surface on a hot day, you can watch it seem to disappear really quickly. That's because the liquid water is turning into water gas or vapor and vanishing into the air. What is it called when a liquid turns into a gas? Well, you can see that we call that evaporation. Finally, here's one more. When you have a cube of dry ice, solid carbon dioxide, it turns straight from a solid into a gas. What is it called when a solid turns into a gas? Well, when a solid turns directly into a gas, it's called sublimation. Now it's time for you to practice on your own. On cold days, you sometimes see droplets of water form on your window. What is happening to cause that? Well, that's happening because water vapor or water gas in the air is turning back into a liquid on your window. That is an example of condensation. Now here's another. When you boil a pot of water, say to make tea, you can see all of this gas coming out of the kettle. What is this an example of? Well, in this example, liquid water is turning into water gas or water vapor as you boil it. This is an example of evaporation. So from today, remember, evaporation is when liquids turn into gases. Condensation is when gases turn into liquids. And sublimation is when solids turn directly into gases.
Changes in states of matter. There are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. The matter changes its states depending on the temperature and pressure. Fill the tray with water from a tap. Then place the tray in the freezer compartment of a refrigerator. The freezer is very cold. What happens next? Liquid water is changed into solid ice. The process of liquid changing to solid is termed as freezing. The temperature at which it occurs is known as the freezing point. The freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius. If we take the ice cubes from the freezer, and placed them outside, the ice cubes would absorb heat from the warmer air around them, and it starts to melt. The process of changing a solid to a liquid is called melting. The melting point at which ice turns to water is 0 degrees Celsius. Heat a bowl of water on a stove. After some times, the water starts boiling. Bubbles are formed in the boiling water. The bubbles rises, and escape from the bowl as steam, or water vapors. The process in which liquid changes to gas is called evaporation. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. When you take a hot shower in a closed bathroom, the hot water from the shower evaporates, and when the water vapors come in contact with cooler surfaces, such as the mirror, it cools, and form droplets of liquid water. In the same way, the water vapors from the hot sea, or rivers, moves up the sky, and cools down to form clouds. This process in which a gas changes to liquid is known as condensation. Dry ice change into gas directly, without changing to liquid. Snow can also change into gas directly in the winter months, without melting. The process in which solids directly change to gases is known as sublimation. Deposition is the reverse of sublimation. In this process the gas changes into solid directly, without passing through the liquid state. It is how snow forms in clouds, and how frost form on the windows.